Good afternoon. I'm Dave Brigle, president of the Foreclosure Prevention Institute. A little bit about myself. I have over 30 years experience in the real estate industry. Last 12 years has been as a state licensed appraiser. It was by accident 22 years ago when I was a real estate agent that I got involved in the foreclosures. And it happened when I lost just a simple real estate deal. I didn't know what happened. And I decided to learn all there was about foreclosures. And, how that process worked. I was surprised about the lack of information available. And we had to dig out over, years, if you will, information and little nuances and things of this nature. And 17 years ago or so, we published the foreclosure list for Kent County. And I'm going to talk about foreclosures in the process today, and I want you to understand that it's about the foreclosures in the state of Michigan. And we spent a lot of time helping people save their homes. And back in those days, we had financing available. It was readily available. If you were in foreclosure, you had difficulties, we could find a lender that would help you out. Well, today that's a different story because most people have virtually no equity. And back in those days, it was we'd see 8, 10, 12 foreclosures a week. Today, it's more like 100, 120, 130 some this last week. Just, that's an outrageous number of foreclosures. But currently, there's over 2,200 mortgages in Kent County that are in the immediate surrounding area that are in default. In the first quarter of 2007, there were over 400,000 mortgages in default in the United States. The purpose of the Foreclosure Prevention Institute is to help distressed homeowners find real solutions to their foreclosure problem. It's my goal, it's our mission, to educate and empower you to do everything with the best information possible to help you avoid losing your home. Many homeowners across America are facing foreclosure and they don't know what to do. Where to turn. In fact, it's a national crisis and there's no end in sight. There are three primary reasons for this explosion of foreclosures: predatory lending, adjustable rate mortgages, and the economy in general. There are over $88 billion in adjustable rate mortgages that are due to adjust in the next 6 months, going from their little teaser rate up to 8, 10, 12% or higher. Our mission is to help people, homeowners, save their home. Sometimes that's not possible. But we can help minimize the damage of a foreclosure and help them get their lives back to normal as soon as possible. I'm not an attorney, and I'm not giving you legal advice. In 2005, Congress expanded the loss mitigation laws that were first enacted back during the Reagan administration. This basically requires lenders to work with you through loss mitigation of any federally related transaction. Unfortunately, a lot of lenders loosely interpret this working with you. The foreclosure process is something you need to understand so you can deal with your lenders and the loss mitigation to try to save your home. If you were, you're 30, 60, 90 days late, you're getting some phone calls, you're getting a letter, you're getting, they're starting to get anxious. The lender's starting to get really anxious. You have some sort of issue, some sort of crisis in your life, and you need to get that under control. You need to get things in order so that you can continue on with a mortgage. But in the meantime, you're piling up late fees, and you got 2-3 mortgage payments now. And then what's going to happen is you're going to hit this 90-day level, or whenever that lender sends you it's going to send you a demand letter or default notice, and you have 4 to 6 weeks to come up with all the arrearages. Now you've got attorneys involved. What was a $1,200 mortgage payment at 30 days? Here's your 60 days. Here's your 90 days. Now add your attorney fees, add your other late fees, or whatever. You just jumped up to $6,000-7,000. You've got an issue. You got a problem, and it needs to be dealt with. Now, this sheriff's sale is going to occur, and I need you to understand something. When that sheriff's sale occurs, it's going to be at the courthouse. The lender's going to make a bid of what they're owed. It's called a debit bid. And all they're doing is buying the paper. And when that sale occurs, you do not have to move out of your house. You have certain rights. You need to know what those rights are. You have the right of redemption. In the state of Michigan, that is normally 6 months. It could be up to a year. It could be as short as 30 days, depending if the house is deemed abandoned. Now, let me tell you, abandoned does not mean vacant. And don't fall for the scams that we're seeing out there, where investors are throwing notices that look like legal notices on doors, saying, call me in 24 hours, or we're going to move everything out in 48 hours. That is illegal to do that, but they do it to try to get you out, because you've got a bunch of unscrupulous people out there trying to take advantage of your situation, and actually the lender's situation. So I made that clear. You do not have to move out. You've got basically 6 months to do something. You can refinance the house. We could do a loan modification. Let the lender, they don't want your house. They don't need it. They got more than they can handle. But do a loan modification. Let's do a forbearance. Let's do all kinds of stuff. We got options up here. We got options, but the closer you get down to that end of that sheriff's, the end of the redemption period, the fewer options you got. So we need to be talking to these people before the sheriff's sale. That gives us the greatest options. Now, after the sale, we can, there's still things to do. I guess there's. I want to talk about. I'm not a fan of of foreclosure. Of bankruptcy. If you file, you're going to get letters from people say, "File attorneys will file bankruptcy. It'll stop the sale." They're right. It will stop that sale. That sheriff's sale dead in its tracks. It'll stop it. Unfortunately, unless that attorney knows what they're doing, when you go in and what's going to happen is everything that's in the arrears will be added, and you'll be paying that off in sometime up to 5 years. But if the amount of money going into that trustee doesn't include enough to make that mortgage payment every month, within 90 days you'll be back into foreclosure, and you will lose your house because you can't file again. So if you need an attorney that understands, this concept, let me know. We've got it. I have a few in town that know what they're doing. Sometimes you have a lender's telling you that they've got a plan, and this plan is a forbearance.